Okay. I saw a TikTok the other day that was like, I would never, ever, ever, ever be paid anything, any amount of money to do second year of uni again. And I 110% agree. I'd rather eat a brick with mayo, and I hate mayo, a brick with a large helping of mayo than do second year of uni again. My mental health was so bad. It was generally the worst year of uni amongst three very shoddy years. It really ranked low. But there are some experiences. I've always said, like, I don't think I had a fun uni experience, but I think I had lots of fun moments. And one fun moment was in the middle of exam season, in the middle of like my depression. I thought, Jesse, maybe you need to find love. Maybe this is the reason why you're so sad and just nothing makes sense in your life and your world. You know, like the lie that every single romance movie tells us ever. And so I decided to go speed dating. One thing about me is I'm an extrovert. In every single meaning of the word, I'm an extrovert. I have a lot of introverted hobbies. I love keeping to myself. I am an ENTP, but I love that energy when you meet somebody new and you connect with them and you're just like you bounce off each other and it's so great and it's so amazing, you know. So I was like, let me go speed dating. So when you sign up, they send you some things that you need to do to prepare for the speed date, and one of them is come up with some really fun and exciting questions. And you know, the academic achiever in me was like, oh, bet, bet. And I like to call this Jesse's iconic list of speed dating questions. You know, if you're going on a speed date, if you're going on a first date, if you're even going on a date with your longtime partner, you know, these are questions that are genuinely, they make or break a relationship. They tell you so much. They tell you so much. I'm going to give you my secret. Okay. Am I the most single person you will ever listen to in your life? Yes. But my questions, they're great. And I think they're a great vetting process because depending on how you respond to these questions and depending on how the person responds to these questions, you learn so much in such a weird way. And there's a logic, there's a theory, there's psychology behind the questions. So the first question is, what is your theme song for the impending zombie apocalypse? Like, you know, as you're running from the zombies, as you're doing whatever you plan to do in the zombie apocalypse, what song is going to be the theme of your zombie apocalypse? Now, reasons to dismiss somebody on a date and answers is when they give you, oh, something really boring, like, oh, maybe the theme of The Walking Dead. Ugh, so boring. We don't support that. Be unique. Give me a new song recommendation. One guy on the speed date like looked at me blank in the eye and he was like, what a strange question. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Silence. That was it. And I was like, oh, I took my little shit of paper and I crossed it out. I was like, no, we're done here. And there was one guy that told me Usher. And I was like, "Ah, Usher? Which Usher song is the theme song to your zombie apocalypse?" And he was like, I just see myself very comedically. So Usher would make so much sense. Like, Daddy's home. I was like, I got his Instagram because that's a brilliant answer. The second one was, what was your dream job when you were a kid? The answers depressed me. You know, in a place like Cambridge, you would think that people would give really cool answers, but actually, a lot of people were like, oh, I dreamed this, and now I'm working or plan to do something really boring, you know? And it's, you know, that question aside, but it's also really fun to kind of explore somebody's childhood and why they like the things that they like. Another thing is, if you were to have to plan a murder, how would you do it? And this is my way of actually vetting out murderers and psychopaths. Because if you ask that question, the normal reaction is, what? What kind of question is that? And you have a giggle and you have a laugh. And you're like, oh my God, I'm so into true crime. But if somebody like looks you straight in the eye and they start giving you detailed response, cross that person off your list. That is a red flag. My personal favorite one is, who was your childhood cartoon crush? I love this question because I think it's so interesting to see what people say. And I also think you can tell a lot about a person and like what their type is, because a lot of your types and what you perceive about love, which is what we're going to talk about this episode, is formed in your formative years. So I can tell the type of girl you like based off of your childhood crush. And I can tell whether we're going to get along or not, like romantically, based off your childhood crush. So if you were to tell me Princess Peach, you're really, I mean, dark skinned black woman. Your childhood crush was Princess Peach. I don't think we're gonna click that way. But if you were to me, like Shigo from Kim Possible is an answer I did not know many people had. I get it all the time. Shigo from Kim Possible and Kim Possible's mom. And I'm like, you know what, Fez? And I'm like, you know what, we might click. I'm trying to think of the weirdest answer I've ever heard. Somebody was like Peppa Pig. I think that's so concerning. Okay. Hi guys, welcome back to this episode of the Female Genius podcast.
Female genius.
Okay, so today we're talking about love. We're talking about romance. I feel like I spent so long yapping. I did 2 episodes on friendship. So the bare minimum I could do is give you guys at least 1 episode on romantic relationships. I have a sense of romantic apathy. And by the word apathy, I, amongst all of my friends, am very known to have this sense of dissonance when it comes to romance. I'm not that into it. I'm not that desperate for it. I mentioned it in my last podcast. It's just not something I go out and seek and try to find. I think I have a very protective hard shell because I think the level of vulnerability that is required of me very quickly, in fact, in a lot of romantic situations is too much for me. It's too much. That's why I'm a complete support of friends to lovers, but I never date any of my male friends except from one. I was talking to my friend about this recently. One of my male friends got really hot recently, but I don't think I'd ever date him. Like that was the first time I was like, oh, you're kind of cute. Anyway, besides the point. And I'm actually really intrigued at this idea of Disneyification of love. So when we are younger and we watch movies like Cinderella and Mulan and Beauty and the Beast, and this whole idea that love conquers all and love, cures all. I remember the Winx Club episode where there was Dark Bloom. So Bloom is the main character of Winx Club, and she became evil because the evil Dark Lord like bewitched her. And you know what saved her? A true love kiss. And so you're really fed this idea that no matter, who you are as a person and what you're going through in life and the things that you struggle with, answer can be found in another person. And I fundamentally rejected that idea. I think around 15, 16, I kind of looked at it and I was like, romance causes more problems for a lot of people, and their perception of what romance does in their lives is delusional. It's absolutely delusional, let me say. And I'm all for people being delusional. I don't have a delusional disposition. I genuinely think that we're fed this idea that love cures all ailments and it's just this magical, amazing gift in life. And everybody should reach and aspire to find love, this kind of love that heals all and makes you a better person and helps you get over everything. And have that one person that sees every single part of you and walks you through this hard journey of life and does everything perfectly. And all you have to do, right, is get over the fact that his mom hates you, or to, slay the evil dragon, or get over the fact that you guys are enemy servers but you really like each other and you're not really enemies anyway, and just get over that small tiny road bump, and then it's just happy sailing from days on. And that isn't the case. And I genuinely think that because especially Gen Z and our generation, we've been raised on seeing this very specific Disneyfied version of love in media, that we are now struggling, or as a group. Maybe you're listening to this and be like, I'm not struggling. I've been in a relationship for 5 years. Okay, whatever. I don't care. I'm joking. That sounds so bitter. I'm so sorry. I'm really happy that you're happy. Um, but I think a lot of people struggle because they enter this dating world thinking like this should be so easy and we should actually be able to find my person. And people get hurt so quickly, not even just because of what somebody does to them, but their idea of love that they've been grown up and force fed through media and the things that they have consumed is just so like it's just so far away from the truth. And the fact that love is hard and it's gritty, and romantic love has so many layers to it that makes it complicated, and it's not straightforward as having one perfect soulmate and one true love, and you argue and there's right person, wrong person, right time. And there's so many layers to romantic love, and what you might feel about romantic love might be different. I've always been like obsessed with this idea of the fact that while yes, we present romance in a certain way across, multiple medias and like literature and music and art and poetry, there is no way to see if the way that we experience love or the way that we feel love is similar. In fact, I fundamentally believe that we are trained to see love in a certain way through the media we consume, through the things that we see, and we're also trained to give out love and see love in a certain way from our parents. Our parents and our familial relationships are often our very first picture of what love is supposed to be like, and what love is supposed to seem like, and how you should receive love and how you should take love. For example, in my family, I love my family to bits, but again, like they're brilliant examples because these are the people that taught me these things. We are so physical touch averse. physical touch and words of affirmation, we are just not that type of people. Like, it's never, oh my God, I love you. And I love you so much. And you're so beautiful today. And you just give, like, we're just not that type of family. And we're not that type of family either to like see each other and just hug each other. Be like, oh my God, people, when people do the rock hug, where they're like rocking from side to side, like, oh, I missed you, Pookie. We're very much like acts of service, gifts. Oh my God. For example, when I was younger, my sister Lade, she has a temper. She hates it, but she does, and she can hold a grudge. So when we would argue, or she's 6 years older than me, by the way. When we would argue or I'd do something to like offend her or do something to like really piss her off. I remember one time I gave her weight adding green tea. She was trying to lose weight, and so she was like, "Oh, let me get some green tea for my metabolism." And me, like the little vindictive child I am, I gave her weight adding green tea. Anyway, she was so pissed off. She didn't speak to me for like 3, 4 days, and because she can hold a grudge, like she will go not speaking to you. Like it does not bother her at all. But obviously, as a kid, like it really bothered me that my sister didn't want to speak to me. I got I got like my piggy bank. I got like 3, 4 pounds. I asked my dad for an extra pound, and I got her a box of chocolate. And she was like, "Oh my God, I accept your apology now." Gifts and acts of service is like such a thing in my household and in a lot of Nigerian households. For example, if your parents do something wrong, they never apologize. They're never like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I acknowledge that I'm wrong." They're like, "I've made you your favorite food," or "Hi, like, do you want KFC on my way home?" Or "I'm getting you KFC. What do you want from KFC?" That is their version of apology. So the way I'm so trained to like accept love from other people is through gifts and through acts of service. And the way I show love 100% to my friends and the people I love is through gifts and acts of service, because that is what I've been trained to do. It's very hard for a lot of immigrant parents, and I can completely do a whole episode on it, to like express love in a very specific way and to allow a child to process their emotions safely. And there's again, I definitely will do a whole episode on this because I feel like I'm being very reductive in the way I speak about it and not representing everybody properly. So please, just massive disclaimer here. And so I I feel like it made me very avoidant. I don't think I know how to process my emotions with other people, and it's definitely something that I've been taught. And yeah, I just think it's so interesting.
Female genius.
But another thing that also puts me off of romance and gives me a sense of romantic apathy is the fact that I went through a phase. And honestly, to me, in terms of neuroscience, emotions and how we feel and how we think and our brain pathways and all of that are the most fascinating things to me. And when I was 18, I remember I made a YouTube video about this back then. When I was 18, I was obsessed with the neuroscience and the science behind love because I'd watched a TED talk from Helen Fisher, who's this famous biological anthropologist, and she studies love, like that's her thing. And so I became obsessed with, why do people fall in love? Why do people do these crazy, stupid things? Like, tell me why my friend's crying to me on the phone about this guy, and I'm looking at this guy. I've said, this cannot be the man we're here for. We've been on the phone for 2 hours, babe. Are you serious? In my studies, saw very like often that love and cocaine and being in love and being on drugs are similar things. I was like, bro, what? And so this idea of being addicted and obsessed, and again, there's some studies as always that counteract this, but this idea of being obsessed, because think about it, love is very, very, very connected to your reward pathways in your brain. So that whole thing where, you do something and your brain gives you that boost of dopamine and serotonin to encourage you to repeat that behavior, love does something very, very similar. Drugs, again, are a bit extreme because it alters the way your brain is able to process and deal and experiences the effect of some of these hormones. And that's why drugs are so detrimental, and especially really addictive drugs like cocaine, they mess with your receptors. So receptors, for those of you that aren't scientists, um, they're on the surface of your cells. And what they do is when your hormones come, they bind to the surface of the cells on these receptors. And the receptors kind of send information to inside the cell and causes this chemical change. But cocaine and other drugs basically mess with how these receptors work. And so your body craves more and more and more and more and more because your cells become more desensitized to it. Like a good example is like if you learn how to play guitar, you start getting calluses on your fingers, and your fingers really hurt at first and they buzz and it's just a really horrible icky feeling. But the more you play guitar, the more hardened your hands get towards the strings, and then the less likely you are to feel pain. And then after a while, you don't even notice, right? And it'll take you a lot for you to feel pain on the tips of your fingers from playing guitar. It's kind of like that with drugs. There are so many hormones involved in drugs, and I read a paper called The Neuroendocrinology of Love. And like always, any research paper that I reference or talk about is always in the description box below, and I always encourage you guys to read it. Read it, whether you're a scientist or not, have ChatGPT open. I think this paper is really accessible and really not easy to read, but it's definitely easy to understand. Love, again, has a multitude of hormones, like many other emotions. There are loads of different things that feed into it. And because love is a mix of an experience, like you experience love and you feel love. Does that make sense? And there are so many things that feed into it, such as like sexual drive, like courtship and attachment and reward and your visual cortical centers and your memories and your experiences. And there's just so many different things that feed into it. Actually, your gonadal hormone. So those are things like testosterone and estrogen. Characteristically, in biological males, men have higher testosterone than they do have estrogen. Similarly, women produce a lot more estrogen and less testosterone. And these are facilitate, but aren't actually essential for the feeling of love. They're facilitative because they help with the whole process of sexual drive. And sexual drive and feeling love are distinct. While they can feed into each other, for example, I mentioned in my first episode, when you have sex, you release loads of oxytocin, which helps with pair bonding. So sex is very important for forming pair bonds. You know how like if you're like spiritual or religious, you hear the phrase soul ties a lot. Oxytocin is basically the thing that facilitates soul ties. Men produce less oxytocin, like it's not as a large amount when they orgasm as women. It's shown that as they have repeated sex with the same person, they release more and more oxytocin. So time and having more sexual interaction with that person in a certain way increases oxytocin and makes you more pair bonded. So attachment is a very, very, very important aspect of love. Right, but sex isn't. You can take sex out and still experience love, but they are interconnected because they can help facilitate love. Um, and I think it's a very important distinction. I think we live in a generation where everybody sees sex as purely a mechanism for pleasure. And I do agree. I think there is a place for sex in terms of just like seeing it as pleasure. But it's so important, even when you just look at it from the hormonal level, how this helps facilitate relationships and can make people feel closer and attached. And this whole thing, friends with benefits will never work, genuinely because your hormones are working against you in this situation. Like you can't shut off that side of you when you're releasing oxytocin and getting more and more and more and more attached with this person every single time. That's why the friends with benefits always ends up the same way. Somebody always gets attached. It's like hormonally proven. Oh my God. If I could have a megaphone and speak out to the Hinge database. I think is very interesting is that men, when they're studied, have more activity in visual stimuli than women do. When they're looking at individuals in love, and women, when they're in love, the areas of the brain that activate are the areas that involved in attention, memory, and emotion. And this whole idea that women become more emotionally attached and men are more visual creatures, I wonder how far it is plasticity. So I wonder how far it is social influence. So as you go on through your life, your brain isn't set in stone when you're born. Your brain changes and develops through the experiences that you do. Your brain is plastic. It changes. It's like Elastigirl, you know? If you practice piano a lot, the way your brain is linked up and connected to different areas of your brain changes. And if you read a lot, the way your brain is connected up in different areas changes. If you drink a lot of alcohol, like your brain is constantly changing based off of your subjective experience, based on your memory. That is why, for example, some people who have PTSD or experience a really traumatic situation might completely forget about it. Your brain is plastic and is moving in a way that's best suited and protected for you. So I do wonder, again, I haven't looked into any studies of this, but how far it is because of the way society teaches us how men and women are distinct in the way they love. Our brains subconsciously kind of like move and change. I'm very intrigued about that. Maybe I'll do that research one day. Who knows? Um, as I said before, dopamine is involved a lot in love and the experience of love. Dopamine, our favorite hormone. Say it again. Dopamine is our favorite hormone. Um, Dopamine is very much involved in drug pathways and addiction pathways because this is all connected to the way we receive reward. And love essentially has to feel like a reward. You're obsessed with a person, you like a person, you feel some kind of attraction to a person, and your heart rate increases because your cortisol levels are increasing and your noradrenaline is increasing. So you're getting a little bit stressed, you're getting a bit sweaty, you're thinking them, your butterflies is all because of this hormone called noradrenaline. And so when you get that satisfaction that you meet somebody and you have that interaction with somebody, then it's like, oh, okay, cool. I think he likes me back. You get a little bit of a reward. Or they like message you and you get like a ping on your phone. You're like, oh my God, he messaged me. You get a bit of a reward. So you chase that feeling again. That is where dopamine and reward centers all come involved in love. Because if you think about it, you're like, why do we keep coming back to love even after we've gotten heartbroken? And I guess there's an element of love and attachment that comes with just living your life with someone and having somebody to care for you and to feel attached to someone. But there is also that reward center that love feels good. Being in love does feel good. It's supposed to feel good. And so that dopamine pathways, those things that are linked are just so important, are extremely important. Oh, guys, this is the most yap I've done about science, but I'm so passionate about this subject. I feel like if I was to ever do like a proper dissertation on neuroscience, I feel like I would do it between either, I was always torn between vision and love, like vision and emotion, because it's just so interesting.
Female genius.
So another thing that I want to say in love, and I firmly believe this is not scientific now. This is me when I yap about my opinion. I definitely think that we accept the love that we think we deserve. We are trained to love a certain way, like I've explained in this video, like I've explained in talking about attachment styles and kind of the psychology behind romantic love. But in the sense that we are trained to feel like this is as good as we're gonna get. And because of so many hormones that are involved, it's very hard to override and kind of be like, oh, I like you, or override the fact that I like you, but I love myself more. I saw this amazing thing on TikTok and I'm gonna reiterate it. This is not an idea of my own. If, for example, if somebody's giving you 30% of love, they're giving you 30%, and you feel like you only deserve that 30%, you're going to think about, oh my God, wow, this person loves me so much. They treat me so well. Oh my God, yes, they cheat on me. Yes, sometimes they might be so mean and hard to me, but you know what? They buy me gifts. They love me so well because you feel like 30% is all you deserve. That's what you've been trained to think that you deserve in life for some weird reason. And then you will never, ever, ever know that you deserve more. To you, 30% looks like 100%. And when you give yourself more self love, when you allow your friends and your family to love you and you pour that same energy into yourself, right? Then, 90, 100%, right? If you loved yourself or felt like you deserved 100% from somebody and somebody came and give you 30%, you'd be like, bro, move along, please. Get help, get therapy. I cannot stand you, because you love yourself 100%. You feel like you deserve 100%. You deserve somebody's commitment. You deserve their attention. And I'm not saying because you feel like you're a perfect person, but everybody deserves 100% love from the person that they do and the person that they choose to commit to. And if they're giving you 30% of the love that you deserve, it's going to look small. And that is why I'm such a big proponent of loving yourself, pouring that energy into yourself, working on yourself, not in the way that, you're trying to be absolutely perfect for your partner. And you're like, oh, I'm never, ever, ever going to date until I feel 100% perfect in yourself, because self love is ultimately a journey. But the flaw, and I think what a lot of people struggle is they go into this dating world trying to find and be fixed by somebody, but the only person who can fix yourself is you. Oh my God, I sound so self-helpy now. But the only person that can love yourself and fix those holes in yourself is you. Like, somebody can help you along, some people can like point it out to you. But at the end of the day, you're sitting the exam by yourself. It's kind of like, in GCSEs or like A levels and stuff, where you like put your hand up and be like, Miss, I'm really not getting this question in an exam. They'd be like, I can't give you the answer. Let me help you read it out. Let me help you spell it out. And that's what friends and families and your romantic partner is for, to help you spell it out and be like, look, this is what I think. Obviously, life, there's so many aspects to romantic love, like children and forming a family and being compatible. And feeling romantic love doesn't always equal compatibility, because again, like, you're trained to like look for the love that you think you deserve and the love that what you're used to seeing, not the love that actually works for you. So compatibility is a separate issue from romance. Oh, there's so many episodes I need to do. I need to do an episode on compatibility. I used to think like, I'm very much like, I love a guy that's like silent and like mysterious and like tattoos and like a nose ring and just like like every 13-year-old girl's Wattpad dream. I was like, oh my God, that's my type. I don't want a guy that yaps. I have a fucking podcast. Why would I want a guy that yaps as much as me? But then also, I've experienced like the quiet, very laid back guy, and I just think I get a kick of opening them up. But really and truly, like that, I don't think that's very what we would be very compatible in the long term. I feel like I'd get so bored. I was talking to my friend about how I'm so over like even trying, like just can't be asked. And they're like, you're not perfect either. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. And so I'm just like, would you date the male version of you? Absolutely. Yeah, I'm a blast. I'm so like I think that should be the answer to everyone. I think we'd get along so well. I think I'd be a blast. Like, what do you mean? I'm so I'm not perfect, but I'm funny. I'm a yapper. And then I'm also like quiet. I can go mute if you want. Like I love reading by myself. I love like just listening to music and going for walks. Like I'm not like overly attached. I would love that. I hate when people are overly attached. I hate when people are not funny. And I'm funny and non-attached. Like, I'd love to date myself. I guess that's my question for you, geniuses. Would you love like to date yourself? Anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Female Genius. Tell me what you think about romantic love. Have you been in a long term relationship? Have you just gotten out of one? Are you looking for one? What do you think about all of this? What do you think about everything that you've learned about hormones? Honestly, this is my favorite thing to talk about. And do you think love is like being on drugs? Actually, that's probably not a great question to ask because that would sound like I'm encouraging people to take drugs. Thank you so much, guys, for watching this episode. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, follow wherever you listen to your podcast, and I will see you guys next week, Friday, for Female Genius Fridays. Anyway, bye, guys.